Stock market is about to close out the day and the week and do so on a down note as we look at those numbers. NASDAQ in the middle of the screen there is down 1%. This on the day that President Trump made it official, announcing Kevin Warsh as his pick to be the next Fed chairman. Let's bring in Scott Martin on this. Scott, the Chief Investment Officer at Kingsview Wealth Management. Good to see you, my friend. Where are you, in heaven? What kind of a shot is this?
I am in heaven. I'm coming down to tell you that you're about to come back with me because I know you own gold and silver, and you shouldn't these days. I'll tell you that much.
Man, you look like, yeah, something surrounding you. So yeah.
It's an aura.
We're all, yeah, that's what it is. We're all praying for you. What about the market? What's surrounding the market? So to me, I said earlier, I could be wrong, I'm often wrong about markets, that yeah, everybody's focused on the new Fed pick today, but there's a lot more going on. There's been a lot going on this week with like AI and all the spending and people starting to question the run-up. So what's going on a Friday that stands out?
Well, I mean, seriously, the metals trade for one. I mean, if you look at gold and silver today, Connell, I mean, I'm going to have to give you back the necklace you gave me a couple weeks ago because I don't want it anymore. I think a lot of folks are looking at some of the other, say, ancillary trades going on with the metals, certainly energy. And I think, like you mentioned, AI and just some of the general tech names that are maybe not just AI, but some of the other just kind of server names, those are getting waxed here and there. I mean, there's some earnings reports that have been out that have been so-so. They've been great. They haven't been bad. And then you mix in this metal squeeze where we've had this run-up, this inexplicable run-up in gold and silver and even copper yesterday, all-time high. And then now we're seeing that squeeze out. And so a lot of folks are kind of sitting around wondering, okay, what's next? What do I own next that's going to get squeezed out? And I think that's a concern for a lot of folks, especially as you see maybe some margin calls as we saw come into the metals today.
Oh, that's interesting. What about oil? There's all kinds of rumors and headlines and comments floating around about Iran, what might happen, what might not happen. How do you look at oil? What happened to Scott? Oh, this has been a rough one. Give him a second.
Yeah, so I think,
here he comes.
Well,
you weren't on for a second for some reason.
No, it must have been the heavenly bodies.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
so what do you think
here's the thing about energy. Yeah, well, here's the thing about energy, Connell. We have not worried about energy for years now as far as price. And energy, as you know, comes into play with a lot of companies, say production, a lot of deliveries and things like that. And so as energy has risen over the last, say, few weeks, it's put a strain on possible profits for many companies in the U.S. and around the world. And it's also put this new fear into, okay, if energy is going to go wild or, say, go up over the course of this year, what else is going to be taken up with it? We talk about inflation a lot when we talk about the consumer. Is that going to be the new effect on the consumer when it comes to transportation costs and fabrication costs that we didn't have to worry about, say, some months and years ago?
Okay, one of the reasons I asked you about those two issues first before getting into Kevin Warsh at all, or even bringing up, is because I don't think you can look on a day and be like, oh, the NASDAQ's down 1% because Trump picked Warsh. In fact, there's probably an argument to be made that Trump may have picked Warsh, at least in part because he thinks it would be a good thing for the market longer term, that he's a well-respected guy on Wall Street. Is he right about that?
I believe he is. And I think Warsh at least comes in as that maybe gentler body when it comes to maybe one that was going to be maybe a little more independent than some of the other choices that were going to be made. I think that's good. I think the Fed staying independent, Connell, is a very big thing. We don't want to, say, emasculate the Fed completely to where they're not doing anything on their own and they're doing everything via the executive branch. But we'll see what happens with the Warsh pick now going forward, because today I would argue that I don't know if it was great for the market because we saw a lot of volatility, maybe not in the S&P and NASDAQ or in the bond market, but we saw it in a lot of other places. So there's a lot of other, say, effects that could be happening with the Warsh pick that we're going to find out about in the next few weeks.
Why do you think that is? Because I was saying I don't know that people think necessarily Warsh is going to 100% do Trump's bidding for him. I mean, he might not do that once he's in there.
Well, he may not do it once he's in there. Now, what did he promise him to get in there? Who knows? And what does it look like? I mean, what does the economic picture look like as well? Because Trump certainly didn't like Powell and company. Warsh is certainly, I think, in theory, going to be more dovish, which means maybe lower interest rates, maybe more, say, quantitative easing and things like that, monetary stimulus. Right. But all in all, you can't do that, though, I don't think, as a Fed chairman or even as a Fed governing member, if the economy is as strong as we think it is. And so I think you have to basically have somebody that's going to take both what I think a lot of the, say, powers that be want, but also listen to the economy and say, well, this is what we should do based on, say, a more balanced basis. And that's the thing that'll be best for the market and for the consumer. And hopefully he does that.
Scott, God bless. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
We'll be back.